Good morning, Mark Beevor.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you today?
Very good, and I hope you're doing well as well. You look great, so you must be doing well.
It's all about keeping up appearances.
That's a very good start, Mark.
Yeah.
So, Mark, I want to thank you for your time with Check-In, which is our weekly casual discussion with hospitality leader in Northern California. I had the chance to know you for the last 4 years, and a lot of people in San Francisco know who you are. You've been very active with different associations, one of them being the Hotel Council of San Francisco.
Yep.
And I would like to say a few words about who you are, just in case of, if someone watching do not know who you are, then they know what successful career path you've been having, because it's not done yet.
I'm hoping not. And may this interview not be the end of the road. So let's keep it.
Mark, we never know. So, for people who don't know you, let me say a few things. First of all, you're from England. You did your education, part of your education in England, at the Stowe School.
Stowe School, yeah.
What I did not know about this school, and I checked last night. It's a beautiful school, and a lot of very interesting people came from that school, like Richard Branson.
He did.
David Niven came from that school as well. And there is a whole list of famous people. Those two are the ones that I know the most. But
interestingly, Richard Branson actually left at age 14. He got kicked out, and then he did okay. He did very okay.
Yeah, he didn't do too bad.
No. So that rebellious streak can really pay off.
Mark, maybe you should have left.
We'll see. We'll see.
So after doing the Stowe School, you moved to the US to the Skidmore College in Saratoga Springs, New York, where you did a Bachelor in Science in Philosophy and Religion from 1993 to 1997. Following this, in 1997, this is when you started your career in the hospitality industry. You joined Four Seasons, and your first experience was in Boston, and you stayed with Four Seasons throughout your career for a total of 17 years, on and off, and you traveled the world with Four Seasons. As I just said, you were in Boston. You then went, you sent me that whole list. And
I went to London.
You went to London, you went to Maui, you went to Sydney, you went to Jackson Hole, beautiful Jackson Hole in Wyoming. Then you went to Las Vegas, that some people have heard of. And then you went back to Jackson Hole, all of that with Four Seasons. So you had a very long, I would say, career path with Four Seasons. And we will talk about this a bit later on. And right now, currently, you are the general manager for the last 4 years at the Hotel Zetta, Z-E-T-T-A, in San Francisco, 3 blocks from Union Square. The Hotel Zetta is part of the Viceroy Hotel Group. It's a boutique hotel. It's a very nice hotel, very edgy, that catered very well, I think, to the millenniums, or to a lot of high-tech companies that we have here in the city, like the Slack of the world and all those guys. I think your property is definitely a big hit. And when it came to the market, it was one of the newest, most stylish hotels we had in the city, and we were able to keep it up, to make it working well, to keep it looking good. And so thank you for doing this, because that makes our city look good. And then I see as well that as far as foreign languages, you do speak French. So maybe, so maybe should we, follow in French this conversation?
Well, you put me on after Michael Pace, who speaks like 27 different languages. So it doesn't, now that I speak a little bit of French, really doesn't sound that great. But,
okay.
But I try.
You're very involved with the association, I was just saying before. You've been with the Hotel Council. You're board director of the YBCBD, the FVC, Yerba Buena CBD as well. So you're very part of the community, and I will have questions about that for you.
Sure.
My first question to you is, as far as education, so you transferred from England to the US. How did it happen?
Well, it's interesting. When it was time to choose what university to go to, I still didn't know what it was that I wanted to study. And in England, you really need to button that down, and you specifically go to school and you study history, or you study biology, or you really pick your lane and go for it. And I just had no idea what it is I wanted to do. And when I'd heard about the liberal arts sort of curriculum, for lack of a better word, the programming over in America, that to me just made a lot of sense. I could spend 2 years, taking different classes that I'd never taken before, really establishing what I was interested in, and then spend the final 2 years, obviously honing that in. And it was without a doubt a game changer for me. And when I went away and did that, I was taking anthropology, I took some Spanish, I took some German, I did, I carried on with my French. And ultimately I started building this based on philosophy, because philosophy of religion had always somewhat fascinated me. And I wanted to just get into it more. And then ultimately I ended up designing my own degree. There was no philosophy of religion degree at Skidmore, but they did have a self-determined major program. And so I made a proposal, it got accepted. And I wanted to do something that I knew I would never have an opportunity to study again. And I felt that if I came out of school with a degree, I could go into any business saying, look, I'm a smart, intelligent guy, and I can articulate, and so give me a chance in whatever business that would be, because I had a degree to back that up with. But why I didn't really want to spend 4 years studying something that I was then going to do for the next 40 years. I figured that whatever it is I was going to come into, I'll probably learn that within my 40 years and more. So why not take my college years to study something that I'll never get an opportunity to look at again? And ultimately, that's what I did. And my thesis was a comparative study on Buddhism and Christianity. And I was going to be the guy who was going to, without a doubt, prove or disprove the existence of God. That was my quest. And what obviously turned up was actually a really interesting personal journey into spirituality, and where I sat on all of that from a theological standpoint. And so it was an amazing experience, actually, and one that I would not have got if I stayed in England, and one I really think I only got because I went to the States. And it was a real game changer.
Wow, fantastic.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a very unique story.
Yeah, so it's interesting. People say, okay, so maybe we shouldn't study what we're going to go into school with. And I still slightly believe that, but I probably should have minored in business. I think that would have been helpful versus minoring in French. But I knew if I minored in French, I could go to Spanish. I could go to Paris for a year. So that's what I ended up doing. So I think my philosophy of, study something at school that you're never going to get a chance to study again, because you'll learn all the skills you need to on the job, works for some professions. Not great if you're pre-med, but certainly works if you're going to go into the hotel industry. And so it really was a great formula, actually. It's worked out very well.
So you did learn hospitality as you were on the job. When you
Correct.
That's how you, because you did.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. I went to 4 seasons in Boston, and ignorance is bliss, right? I kind of just waltz in, and I'm going to talk to the director of HR and ask him some questions about 4 seasons and the hospitality industry, and I was going to decide whether I would be working for them, and I look back at it now, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the arrogance of it all. But it was a fascinating interview, actually, because I remember the director of HR at the time said, so what kind of company do you want to work for? And again, I hadn't done a ton of research of 4 seasons at all. I literally had come in, it was more of a education process to try and get some information. And I figured if a front desk agent job came up, I could do the job, but who is this company? And there was sort of three things that I was really looking for. And I said, I believe that if something is worth doing, it's worth doing properly. So I know I'm going to work hard. So versus working for a 1-star hotel, let me work for a 5-star hotel, because I will put in the same amount of energy. So that just seemed to be, to me, to make sense. The other one was that if I am going to work that hard, that please promote from within before you promote from outside. So I wanted promote from within to be a priority for the company. And then thirdly was that I would bow down, kiss the ring, I'll answer the phone within 3 times, I'll use the guest name twice during a check-in interaction, I would do all of these things. But I get to choose my office. And for me, that was, I want to be able to travel the world. And I want to be able to use the vehicle of 4 Seasons to live in places that most of us only get a chance to go on vacation. And so those were sort of for me, were my 3 criteria. And it just so happened, as I look back at it now, that 4 Seasons for me at that time was the perfect fit. And it really couldn't have worked out better. And it is, by the grace of God, I ended up walking into the front doors of 4 Seasons Boston, and they very kindly took a chance on me, and my philosophy and religion degree served me well, and I got a front desk agent job. So, but I think that right fit, that very much intuitive, innate right fit on the get-go was fantastic, and that was a very lucky move.
Well, it goes back, I mean, there was a question I was going to ask you for future students who studies hospitality and who wants to get involved. Well, you don't have to be a student. You're the proof that, well, sometimes you end up being somewhere without having studying for it, but the desire to be part of that industry. And if that industry matches what you're waiting for, then it can work out. I mean,
and I think our industry is very unique in that, right? And I think that's also the beautiful thing of it. You can have people who don't even finish high school, and they can come into the hospitality industry and they start working from the ground up, and they can become some of the most amazing hoteliers out there. Because the reality of our business is that you do need to start from the ground up. I think if anybody is getting an undergraduate degree in hospitality, if they want to get their master's in hospitality, they want to become a PhD in hospitality, you're still going to bus tables, or at least I think you should. And you should still clean rooms, and you still check people in, and you still serve drinks, because that is the heart of what we do.
Let me ask you, why do you think this? Why do you think this is important for someone in our industry to go through this? What did you learn from all those things? Because you started Mark as a front desk agent at your first position.
Yeah, I think it's incredibly important to be able to understand what people do on the shop floor. I think it's really important to be able to empathize with what they're doing and what's going on, and you're not removed from the triumphs and also the struggles, so that as a general manager, you know when to push and you know when to lay off. And I think if you skip those steps of working in those frontline positions, you skip a massive opportunity to have complete understanding. And without sort of jumping and going too much of a detour, I think that you get those key, hugely important lessons anywhere from your first entry-level hourly staff up to department head. And I think anybody who can spend as much time as possible in that bracket, with supervisor and assistant manager being your really pivotal times of learning, spend as much time as you can. Make it years long, because it's not a race as to who becomes GM or CEO first. It's a race to see who becomes the best. And that is where the gold is. It's in that supervisor, assistant manager. And if you can move from area to area, whether you are front desk, you move into the restaurant, you move into housekeeping, you move into banquets, you move into back of house. I mean, that is an education you cannot buy, and it will make you so good when you start running your own hotels. And when I look back on my career, I wish I had spent more time. I got a really great rooms division experience, and that's solid. I wish I'd been able to, or not had I been able to, I wish I had the foresight to move into food and beverage at a supervisor, assistant manager level. Those skill sets that you need in housekeeping assistant manager to your restaurant assistant manager, it's the same skill set. You've got to be able to learn the menu versus learning cleaning chemicals, but it's the same skill set. Am I willing to show my employees? Can I look after them? Can I lead them? Am I in it with them? All of those things transfer. And the more time you can spend in that pivotal education phase, the better you're going to be. And let your buddies, you know, steer off a couple of years ahead of you, because you'll catch them up later when you're running a far better hotel. And I really believe that.
Could you let us know what position you had throughout your career, or what department you've been working in during your career?
Yeah, so I started, as you said, front desk, and I sort of grew up in the front desk and got to front desk, got to assistant manager, then went to housekeeping as assistant manager, went back to the front desk as a front desk manager, front office manager, moved back to housekeeping as the assistant executive housekeeper, and then moved out of there to assistant director of rooms, to director of rooms, resort manager, and now with a different company, general manager. You know, and I think that was, it's been a great path. Again, my only, I guess, self-critique of that is, boy, I wish I had spent some time in food and beverage, and I just think it's much better. You can still go to your bar. You have a fantastic bar in your lobby. You can still go there. And I think that's an important thing to do. I can't argue with that.
Or, hey, you have a fantastic restaurant as well, which is part of your hotel, which is it a Michelin star? I believe it's a Michelin star, right?
It's not a Michelin star. It has won the James Beard Awards when it first opened up. And what's actually fascinating about our restaurant, the Cavalier, is that it's run by Big Night Restaurant Group. So for the first time, I now work and collaborate with a third-party food and beverage operation, which is a lot of fun, and it has its pluses and minuses. But it is great from a guest experience that you have really great hotel people running your operation of a hotel side of things, and you've got really great restaurateurs running a great restaurant experience. And so when you combine those two together, the guest is having a fantastic experience. We don't have an okay hotel restaurant. We have an outstanding experience there that fits from a brand on brand perspective. It really fits well with Zetta. So you have a much better experience under one roof, which is what the whole point.
Do you think it's fairly unusual to have two companies that click so well? And do you think one property can run a hotel business and an F&B business in a perfect way?
Well, I don't think either way is 100%, right? I think that this formula is becoming more and more popular. I mean, you see, you know, Michael Mina runs the restaurant in the Four Seasons in DC amongst lots of other places. You've got Wolfgang Puck going on in the Four Seasons in Beverly, Wiltshire. So it's happening everywhere. The difference in some of those hotels is that it's one of their 2 or 3 outlets versus 100% of their outlets. From a financial standpoint, it's great on the P&L because obviously that's not the most profitable side of it. But from a guest experience standpoint, if you can partner up with a great brand fit, where we can drive some guests into that restaurant and they can drive an experience that is unique and different in the same way your hotel is, it works brilliantly. So it's not easy for sure. But I think I'm lucky to work with a general manager at the Cavalier, a guy called Max Dibble, who, you know, he's a great learner and he's inquisitive about, okay, so what does the hotel need? And he's super flexible. And if you've got a great GM like that works in the restaurant, I think it can work really well. If you have a GM for a third-party restaurant who really is just, hey, I'm here to run the restaurant and I'm not into your hotel bit, then you're going to have a problem.
Well, for people who don't know Cavalier Restaurant, if you are in San Francisco, if you are by the Moscone Center, you're a block away from the Hotel Zetta and Cavalier Restaurant. It's a fantastic setting. The setting is very nice. It reminds me of an English pub, right? Kind of an English...
it is absolutely. It's a London brasserie. It's kind of what it is. And so it was my calling. And then when you're not in the restaurant, we have a lot of Beatles paraphernalia and pictures in our lobby. And we even actually have a red telephone box downstairs outside the guest elevator. So when I saw that, I was like, this is it's just meant to be.
This is my hotel.
This is it, right? No, it's great. And their food is way better than the English food. So I just lay that out very quickly.
Hey, Mark, you know, talking about experience, so talking about the hotel and food business experience that is very important for guests to have. A great hotel and the food when it's there is perfect. You worked for 17 years for Four Seasons.
Hmm.
Four Seasons is one of the top brand when you think of luxury hotel.
Hmm.
Well, Four Seasons comes to mind. Could you tell us what they do different than other brands that makes them so successful? What are the secret ingredients of Four Seasons? What are they so good at?
I think, you know, it's really all about consistency. And then it's about the culture that employees buy into. You know, at the beginning, I said that when I walked into my interview as that front desk agent in Boston, and I had my three criteria. And so it really was just this natural fit, and the hotel company was the right hotel for me at that time. I think that is hugely important. And I think it's as important for anybody. But Four Seasons is not for everyone, and that is 100% okay. But for those people who do enjoy that dynamic, it's great, and I think they are very consistent with their training. They very much have focus on what needs to be achieved. It's a very intense environment, and they're very tenacious in what wants to get done. And they're very selective in who they hire. So you have a great culture of great employees who are really want to go out of their way to look after guests and have been given the training to be able to do that and the resources to do it. And I think it is just it's unwavering focus on going above and beyond. And I don't think it's anything more magical than that. And then you have people who fit into that culture really well, and everybody's on the same page.
I was reading last night when I typed Four Seasons Resorts on Google, and one of the first thing that came out was everything done well.
Yeah. I think that's pretty good. I think that's pretty good. You know, Four Seasons is not going to be the first company to have the highest, greatest tech involved in their guest experience. They're not going to have the latest and greatest gadgets. They're very methodical and they take their time. But when they execute on something, 9.9 times out of 10, they execute it extremely well. So it's all very well thought out. It's very methodical. It's not super speedy, so that may drive some people nuts. But they execute it flawlessly, and it is done through that whole concept of it's got to be a great guest experience, and we're willing to do, if it's worth doing properly, and let's make it so.
You know, it's when I looked at your profile, I was intrigued by those 17 years because in our industry, it is rather unusual and maybe more in San Francisco and California to have someone who stays with the same brand for so long. We see, you know, in our industry, people leaving every 3 or 4 years. There is quite a quick changes around here. So you had those experience with Four Seasons because the style of management, the style of hotellerie was a perfect fit for you. You like the way the whole thing was working, correct? And they kept on giving you opportunities, maybe.
Yeah, and so again, it really went back to those three criteria, which at the time I didn't realize was such a mantra or something to live and die by. And ultimately, I want to travel the world and use Four Seasons as that vehicle, that didn't become a criteria anymore, as I had a family and we wanted to settle down a little bit more. So that kind of went away. And so then it became, okay, well now it's time to try something different that is going to allow us to stay in one place, but I still believe if something's worth doing, it's worth doing properly, and I still believe in growing my career. So those two things became very helpful. So when San Francisco came up as an opportunity, you know, this had always been a place where we wanted to come and live. And if we were ever going to leave Jackson Hole, we had Boston, San Francisco, and Chicago was sort of, those were our top picks. And so this came up, and it's worked really well. The Viceroy has a fantastic, I think, culture of humility. There's no egos involved. Everybody works really hard and is trying to do the best possible thing they can for their guests and create this best experience in their own unique hotels. And I felt for chapter 2 of my career to be able to move into a company that has this different bunch of hotels that had a real identity of a sense of place, and have a portfolio that almost felt like it was a collection of independent hotels versus what I'd had with Four Seasons. It would be a great opportunity to experience something different. But again, still, it's something that's worth doing. It's worth doing properly. And I want to grow my career. And so this really fit really nicely into it. And it got us into one of our top pick places to move to.
Right. So yes, here in San Francisco, we have a few Viceroy hotels. And yep. How do you work with them? How do you guys interact? How is the process? Because San Francisco is a big market, but it's a small city. It's a big market, but small city.
Yeah, you talk about me staying with Four Seasons for 17 years, and that may be weird because of San Francisco. And it does seem that in San Francisco, everybody has dated everybody. We've all been with the same companies. I mean, it's quite unbelievable. So, no, it's actually fantastic having, we've got 4 hotels, including Zetta here in San Francisco: Emblem, Zetta, Zelos, and Zeppelin. And Zelos, Zetta, and Zeppelin, is Viceroy managed, but owned by Pebblebrook. And so because we have the same owners, our 3 Zs, as sort of internally we call it, we work very closely together. We have the same asset manager, which is fantastic, and we collaborate really well with her. And we really work as 3 GMs together when it comes to questions on operating, when it comes to ideas changing, when it comes to sales managers, when it comes to strategy. And each hotel has a slightly different strategy. Zeppelin up in Union Square is different from Zelos on 4th Street and Zetta on 5th Street. And as you said, we're very much sort of high-tech millennial based. That's not what Zeppelin is looking after at all. And Zelos and Zeppelin are 200-room hotels. I'm 116. So they have a lower rate with more group, and we're the rate drivers because we're a slightly lower number of rooms hotel. So we all have our own different strategy, but we very much have the same team, and we spend a lot of time ideas changing and on calls together, and it works out very well.
Very good. What do you think of the market in San Francisco? What do you think of our industry? We had, obviously everybody went through the COVID-19, which we will talk about, but San Francisco, for the last few years, for the last 4 or 5 years, we had, issues with homelessness. How did you know about that? How do you face it? How do you help? What's your take on this? And the reason I'm asking this is because, as I was saying in my previous interviews before, I have some of my family and I have some of my friends who wants to come to San Francisco. And they ask me, hey, we've heard that the city is not as safe as before and everything else. How do you see it? How do you face it? What do you think of the situation? And where do you think the city of San Francisco is going with facing, that situation? And I know that with the Hotel Council, you guys have been very involved with this. So what's your take on that situation in the city?
Well, I think it's a serious problem. I knew about the homelessness issue before I got to the city. I had no idea it was where it is, for sure. We could really get into the healthcare system in this country and which is at the basis of it all. I think that if there has been so much talk about, yes, we're going to fix homelessness, we're going to have greater outreach, we're going to create homes for the street population, and very little gets done. There's an awful lot of chat, and that has been going on for years and years and years. And as long as that carries on, we're not going to move the needle at all. And now at a time where we are in COVID, health, cleanliness is what's going to bring guests back to our city. If this is not fixed, and if people are not willing to expend that political capital now and take some brave steps now, I don't think it's going to happen. And we will see our citywide conventions disappear. There's just There's just no two ways about it. And we've got to get some help on this. It's got to get cleaned up. It is inhumane as to what's being left, and it's not good. It's not good for business. So I think it's a real problem that has to get tackled.
Yes, because I mean, your property is 1 block away from the Moscone Center.
Yes.
And for people who don't know, we in San Francisco, we have quite a few conferences that got canceled for this year. Some pretty big ones, some pretty major ones actually. And well, all those hotels that are just a block away or a few blocks away from the city have been really impacted by the cancellation of those conferences. And well, one reason is the COVID-19. The other reason is because sometimes some conferences decided to move to other cities that became more attractive and where they find the city more clean.
Correct.
So, do you think that's going to be resolved? I mean, you know, there is a lot of talk, as you just said, you know, but do you think we are sometimes between a policy put in place and the result that comes from it can take a few years? Do you think that what the new mayor has been doing is going to help down the road? Are we going to see the fruits of what, you know, she's been trying to do with hotelier and everything else? I know it's hard. I mean, who knows, right?
Right. I mean, I think it's, I don't doubt, I'm not going to profess to be an expert on this at all, but I don't doubt the mayor's intentions or her willingness. I think she's up against some strong competition in City Hall, which does not help her case. So I really hope we're going to make some footsteps. I really do. I think now is the time to do it, and it has been the time for a long time. And if the city is not able to, I think it's going to impact our return to our business as we open back up. I think it has to be seen as a critical component to the success of the revival of San Francisco.
Well, talking about the COVID-19, the city of San Francisco announced that normally hotels should be reopened mid of August. And that's the latest news out there. How are you facing that situation? How are you getting ready to get guests back in your property? Safe and clean is a very big deal right now. What are the steps you've been taking with your staff to make sure that you're all good to go by mid-August when things reopen?
Well, we never closed. So we've been open to essential travelers, which has been great. And it's been a really unique experience. At the beginning, we had to come up with, how are we going to react? And this was before CDC had sent out any guidelines, before HLA, before CHNLA had put out their guidelines, before the hotel council had. And so literally I would go up to the room with my executive housekeeper and we walked through what does cleaning a room look like right now. And it started off with, okay, we're standing outside the rooms, we put on gloves, we put on a mask, and now we would knock on the door and we'd get the linen bag and we get the chemicals, we walk in the room and we do this, and this, and we come out and we literally walked through how it all went. We walked through the valet. We had decided valet needs to go away because we don't know how guests are going to feel about that. And I don't know how my employees are going to feel about that. So we put that away. Bell service, are we touching people's luggage? At the very beginning, we said, no, we're not going to. And then as all these guidelines came out, whether it was brand guidelines or industry guidelines, we realized that our internal guidelines were very much in line with which had already been done. So that actually created a great deal of comfort, certainly for myself, that we were moving forward already in the right direction. And it has been, so those of us who have always been at the hotel, we have sort of like morphed over time into the new way that we're checking guests in and wearing masks is not a big deal. And now when I have somebody sit in my office, they're sitting at the far end of the room and we're both wearing masks. And then it's abnormal now for one of us not to wear a mask. I think the biggest thing is actually when our new employees come back and they're obviously tentative about, okay, what's it going to be like? And they find it weird sitting down, having a chat with somebody wearing a mask when they left the hotel 3 months ago, they didn't. And it's helping them realize that it is safe, and it's helping them making this more normal and becoming habituated with our new style of how we interact. And so really the focus is getting employees back as we need employees, and having them feel safe. And what does that first day onboarding look like? So any nerves that they have is at least squashed when they get into the hotel and they realize, okay, it's fine. And just because I walked through the front door doesn't mean I'm suddenly going to become sick. In fact, quite the contrary, we're probably better off at work than we are at home. And that's really where we're at.
Well, so that's good to hear. So for people who are going to view our discussion, you have experience on how to clean more than well a room. You know already how to do it. You've been doing it. You never stop. You never close. So, anyone who wants to go to San Francisco, well, know that the Hotel Zetta has
That's
experience, right, and is really up, I mean, you're on top of all those very tough, sometimes difficult things that you have to do to maintain those clean rooms. And talking about that, the city of San Francisco, I believe, has been reached out by other cities in the US because our hotels have been doing an amazing job, and other cities are curious to know what you guys have been doing, because we've been facing COVID, and apparently the regulation we put to make those hotels are very, very high. So I think San Francisco and hotelier like you guys been doing a tremendous job to make things safe and clean, and well, people should feel safe. When mid-August you reopen, the Hotel Zetta is doing a good job. So you can go there. You can go there safely, and it will all be good. Oh, I see you twice, Mark.
Well, one is not good enough.
Well, oh, hold on. I'm going to close one. There you go.
Stay with me here, Pierre. Okay, you got me there?
Oh, good. Yeah.
All right. Good. That was seamless. Seamless.
Hey, I saw your twin brother.
What did he say?
He said the same thing than you.
All right. Sorry about that, Pierre. It was going.
No, it's all good.
Appreciate that you.
It's all good. So I was just saying, people should feel confident mid of August to come to San Francisco, to come to our hotels. We've been dealing with COVID. Our staff has been trained. You know how to do it, and we are ready. You're going to be in a very safe environment, so that's important for guests.
Yeah, I think that is, and I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, and I would tell you that Zetta is not unique here. I think our industry is unbelievably well prepared, and rightly so. I don't think that is going above and beyond. I think we have done what we should be doing. I think all of the hotel industries, HLA, CHLA, the Hotel Council, HCSF, have all done a huge amount of work to make sure that our industry is well ahead of the game. And the city has helped with that as well. And I think we are in a great place to be open up. I personally find mid-August disappointing that that's where we've been put. And I don't know why we would be put so far down the batting order, honestly. I think that's a real shame, and I don't think it's justified. I don't believe that when hotels open up, unfortunately, that all of a sudden we're going to get millions and millions of visitors. That's just not the case. And I think the earlier we were able to open up, it'll give the city a chance to trickle upwards, which gives everybody more time to become even more familiar with the incredible standards that everybody has put in place, so that when we do get busy and can get busy, we're again well ahead of the game. And I think, unfortunately, pushing it to mid-August, it's not. I don't think it really has much of an upside. But we'll see. We'll see how that goes.
Let me ask you a question about San Francisco and hotelier in San Francisco. You had, you worked in Las Vegas, you worked in Wyoming, you worked in Boston, you worked in Australia, you worked a bit everywhere in Europe as well. Do you think San Francisco is special? And that's really a question because I did not work in any of those cities. But what I find out is that a lot of general managers, when you guys meet together at the hotel council or other association, you all look like old friends and you share information and you are happy to help each other. There is really a camaraderie, like a friendship. And I think it's quite strange when I just joined the industry, seeing two general managers who were competitors, whereas the hotels was next in front of each other, two different brands, behaving like, like business is business, but we're the same industry, we share information. We're making, be better for all of us. Is it special to San Francisco, or is it just me? Maybe it's just me, but I just find it awkward that an industry like this, where there is a lot of competition, is so tight and willing to share knowledge.
Well, I think you're right. I think it is pretty unique. And I think you are correct that our hotel industry is a very tight family. And I think we do look after our industry exceptionally well here. And I guess, I certainly look at my time I spent with Hotel Council. And I think that, Kevin and Kelly do an outstanding job in really being able to facilitate that. And get the leaders around the city and the hotel world together, and we are able to chart a course. And I think that we take our community very seriously and are very passionate about it. And I think there is a lot of collaboration. And so I think that's pretty unique, and I think that's also a bit of a San Franciscan thing, right? It is a friendly city, and people look after each other, and it's and so I think it's within the spirit of San Francisco, and then I think it's within the spirit of the hotel industry as well.
Very good. Thank you for the feedback. Thank you for letting everybody know that I'm not wrong.
I didn't mean to say that.
No, I know. No, but I was really curious because I don't have experience outside of San Francisco. San Francisco has been my first and only city, so I was curious to know from your experience.
No, for sure. I mean, you talk about the other places I've worked at, and whether it's big cities or resort towns, it's not like this. It's definitely unique.
You worked for big properties, and now you are in a much smaller boutique hotel. I mean, there must be a lot of differences. What will be the biggest difference you find between the largest property you worked at, which must be the Four Seasons in Las Vegas, mainly, maybe?
Yep.
And the property you are at today? There must be a lot of it.
The biggest difference is when you work for a smaller property, if the overnight guy calls off, you're the man that's going to be filling in his shoes because there's nobody between you and him. I think that's one of the big. I think you talk about getting to know your guests, and you really get to have a handful of check-ins each day. And so when Mr. and Mrs. Smith go in and out of the hotel, you know who they are. And at Zetta, we're calling our guests by their first name because that's the kind of place we are, and it resonates with the guests that we have. And that's not appropriate for all hotels, but it works really well for us. And I speak for myself. I got into this business because I wanted to look after people and show them a great time. And I wanted to be able to welcome people into my house in the same way that I would welcome my grandmother into my house. If the doorbell rang, I would get up, I'd go open the door. She would come in, I'd offer her a drink, I'd make sure her room is perfect, right? So different from what we do with our guests. And so that I think you can just do in spades in a smaller hotel, more easy than you can in a bigger hotel. With a bigger hotel, you just got more staff doing that, so you've got more margin of error. But again, that's where, if you're going back to Four Seasons, just that tenacity and focus on consistency becomes so good. And if you attain that, then you can do it across the board. I think what I would so there is that guest interaction standpoint, which is key and great fun at a place like Zetta for sure, without a doubt. It's completely unscripted, and we ask our employees, and it's a real cliche, but we ask our employees to truly be themselves. But we really do it, and the team do a fantastic job. And I try and explain when I meet people on their first day at the hotel, from an employee standpoint, I try and explain that you will see at some hotels where on the name tag it says Mark front desk agent, and they are the front desk agent whose name is Mark. Well, here at Zetta, my name is Mark. I just happen to work behind the front desk, and it's a very different reversal. And I think in smaller boutique hotels, you truly meet the person behind the desk who is serving them, who is serving you as the guest in their own true, authentic style, which absolutely comes across. It isn't played up. It is 100% true, and the experience is much more genuine, much more real. And I think that is something that is very special to boutique hotels. As a leader, one of the advantages I have found working for a smaller group and for a smaller hotel is that when things come up, like COVID, for example, you are the one that has to go out and figure out what it is that you're going to do. There is no big machine that if you wait 48 hours is going to tell you what needs to happen. And so it's the same with your network. When I was with Four Seasons, and this is not good or bad, this was just the reality, is that my network was very Four Seasons related, and that's all it needed to be, because that was my career and that was my path. Well, when I left Four Seasons, all of a sudden I'm meeting these incredibly talented, really interesting people from other hotels. I'm learning about other hotel companies. I'm learning about other owners, other REITs. I'm getting a much richer education into all the peripheral things in the hotel world that I may not have been exposed to in Four Seasons because it wasn't necessary for my role. It wasn't that you weren't allowed to know it. It just didn't come on to the horizon because you're dealing with so many other things. So it's really interesting working for a smaller company where you suddenly realize, gosh, I got to go figure this out. I need to understand what gross tax receipt is going to do to my business, and I got to understand what that is. And all of these things that, again, just wouldn't necessarily have come on the horizon for a larger company. And I think that is very enriching, and certainly at the beginning very scary. And you're like, okay, well, what do I know? Well, we're just going to go find out, and we're going to figure it out together. And I talk about working with Zelos and Zeppelin, and I call the other GMs and say, what about this and this, and how do you guys understand that? And so you do get probably a better education as a businessman from a smaller hotel, because you really do own and are accountable for your business, than in my experience working for a larger company where it's fantastic. So you've got that support structure. The disadvantage is you're not shoved into areas that you may not know about, because you've got people who will help you with that.
Got it. Well, you know, it's interesting when you were talking about being personal. You are one of the few hotels when I walk in, I'm always wondering if I'm going to see you in the lobby or somewhere else, because you walk your hotel. I mean, you're there. You're not staying in your office the whole day. I'm not taking an appointment with you because I know I'm going to see you.
Well, I've actually got the staff, they give me a certain code when they see you walk in the door. So
Tailgating. Whoops.
No, I think that's an important part of the role in any hotel, and I'm sure the other GMs do much the same. But none of us joined this job in order to be able to sit in an office, right? The fun is out on the front lines and hopefully being helpful for the team and getting to know the guests, for sure.
A little word for students or people who are looking to join our industry. What do you think the main qualities are to be part of the hospitality industries? What do you think, what kind of character, what kind of attitude that person should have in order to be successful, to have fun doing it, to have a career path like yours? What do you think that person should have as foundation of behaviors, of desires?
Well, I think there's three things. It's passion, grit, and patience. And so when you have to have passion in this business, and it doesn't matter what role you're going to be in, because you can't fake it. The hours are going to be long. You're going to work weekends, AM, PM, whatever it is. If you're not passionate about this, at some point it will catch up. So I give you 2 years to be able to fake it, and then after that, it's over. And that doesn't matter whether you are a server in a restaurant or even in engineering. Even engineers need to be passionate about looking after guests. The fact the paint looks amazing has got to matter to them because they're looking after somebody and they want to make their hotel look fantastic. The HVAC system is working beautifully. Like all of these things, as crazy as it sounds, they need to have a passion to be able to look after people. So I think passion for the business is really fundamental. Grit is hugely important. Hours are long. You are be asked to sacrifice your time away from your friends. It is physically demanding work where you are running in the restaurant, serving in banquets, cleaning dishes in the kitchen, working in housekeeping. It is physical work, and you need to have a lot of grit to be able to stay the course. Because at the end of the day, this is not a sprint. You are in this. This is a true marathon, and I think you have to look at it like this, which is why patience, from a third perspective, I think is really, really important. And I spoke about a little bit earlier on about that key education from that supervisor, assistant manager time frame. Just be patient. Spend years in that role, going from department to department, discipline to discipline. Because the more time you can spend as a supervisor, as an assistant manager level, that's where your learning of the day-to-day operation is. And then you move into department head and you can take off after that. But anybody who is thinking, right, I want to be GM in 4 years, you're going to miss half of that learning. And probably you won't have the resources of the education to back it up when you get there, and you're going to burn out. So yes, have aspirations of being a GM or a CEO, whatever it is, by a certain age, but don't make that like the end all and be all. I just really would encourage people, be patient and go through the works. Because at the end of the day, it is never about how quickly did I become a GM. It's always about how great of a GM was I. And that just comes from those times as a supervisor and assistant manager. So patience is key. And with that, I guess, becomes flexibility as well. Like take these opportunities. But I think passion for the business, grit, to be able to roll up the sleeves and get it done, and patience. It's not a sprint. It is a marathon, and you'll have an amazing career that will take you in amazing places.
Very well, thank you. Those are great points. Yeah, you can write a book about this.
Let's do it.
I'm going to ask you some more personal questions as we are getting into almost the end of our conversation, but not quite, but soon enough. So let me ask you a first question. If you would not have been in this industry, what do you think you would have done? I mean, it's a very difficult question to ask. Maybe there is no answers, but do you know what you could have become if it will not be in the hospitality industry?
I don't know. I think that is a brutal question. I think if I wasn't in the hotel business, I would be in the adventure travel business, probably tailoring people's skiing adventures up into the Himalayas, up in Alaska and Antarctica, just going off in I think that's what I'd be doing. So somewhere or another, it would be involved in the hospitality world. I just think, again, I think it's an industry, people call it, say it is a calling. And I think either you're in it and this is what you're meant to be doing, or you think you're in it, then you get out of it in about 2 years' time. So I think if I wasn't in hotels, I'd be in the adventure travel, and I would think it'd probably have some element of fat skis and skinning up some just epic runs. I think it would be somewhere in there, just doing it better than anybody else.
So are you an outdoor person, Mark? Is that one of your passion, being outdoor and liking sports outdoor?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. And when we left, so we were in Jackson Hole for 10 years, and then I was in Maui at the Four Seasons. Jackson Hole came up that they were breaking grounds, and I remember thinking, I gotta go there. That sounds like a good place. And so anyway, we ended up there, and we ended up being there for 10 years. I thought we could do probably 5, and then I'd have to go. So we ended up being over 10 years in all, which was great. And it was not popular with my eldest when we left to come to San Francisco. But I think this is the beauty about this area, and why we're so glad we came here, is yesterday we were surfing down at Stinson. This morning I'm going for a bike ride along the coastline. And all of last winter we were up at Tahoe each weekend. And then I get to have a career in this most amazing city, and the kids are going to great schools. And that is pretty amazing. And to be able to do all of that from one place, and not even mention the fact that Napa and Sonoma is up the road, it's staggering. And I think that makes this place a really, really special place to live.
You know, Mark, I have to tell you something. Looking at how much light you have in the room you are currently by the windows, and looking at how much light I have in my room where I don't have any light, I am in San Francisco in the Sunset District, which is very famous for having fog, especially during summertime. It's very cold here. It's like 60s. Where you are, look more like 90s, and you have the sun. I'm a bit jealous.
You have to come home for dinner. Bring your kids. We'll watch an Arsenal. We'll do that.
So I can see that you are closer to Napa and Sonoma than I am. So if you like outdoor and you are from England, would you like rugby or football or soccer? Is that one of your passion? Or your family's passion?
It's whoever's beating France. That's key. So we're pretty passionate. No, we're definitely soccer fans over here. We do definitely like our rugby. But we got 4 boys, all of who are Arsenal fans. I mean, it's mandatory, to be fair. But we do have one that is going to be playing for Arsenal. So he's 6 right now, and he will be playing. Nice, I like it. Good back. So yeah, Arsenal is it's an important thing.
So why will he be playing for Arsenal? Is he very good? That's it. He has decided to be playing for Arsenal.
Well, doesn't every 6-year-old think that they're going to be? I hope he doesn't see this YouTube. Rufus will be great. Don't worry. I'm sure you're going all.
When you have family coming to town or guests coming to town, if there is a place, a restaurant, we bring them to. Do you have a favorite spot in the Bay Area, in Napa, Sonoma, or in Marin County? Is there a place where you really like to bring your guests to?
Yeah, I think if we are going, and this kills me to say this, but if we're going to be staying over in Marin, Le Garage, which is
Bruno, my friend Bruno, yeah.
It's great. I mean, it's scruffy. The food is good. The wine is good. Despite being French, they're highly hospitable. You know, it's great. I love it. They do a really authentic job, and you're sitting out there on the waterfront. So that, in fact, when my parents came out here last time, that's where my dad and I went for dinner one time. So, and then in town, I'm a big fan of Morad, which is down in Mission, and I can't afford to go there every week, but it's just super interesting food, and the way it's put together, and the restaurant itself is stunning. The service is great. It's just really interesting. I mean, I'd never eaten pollen on my dessert before. And so just really, really creative and special. And so that place, at the other end of the spectrum, what I do love about the Bay Area is the food truck culture. And I love a good food truck. You never know what you're going to get. And that's fun. So I do love going to hit the food trucks. So long may they come back quickly, as quick as possible, because it's definitely something that we're missing at the moment.
What would be your favorite drink? Do you have a special beer you really like, or a wine or a cocktail that you go for?
You know, it's funny. Over this, I don't know if it's a COVID time, but tequila with some sparkling water and a little bit of agave is just crushed. It's simple, it's effective, and it's so that's where we've got to at the moment. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that sounds good. I'm going to try that. That sounds good. If you had, what was the best resort, the best property you traveled to that you have experienced? What the best, you're like, hands down, if there is a property that you been to, you're like, this is this will be hard to beat because the service is great, the location is great. I mean, it's just like.
Well, I tell you, one of the best places I've been to was actually on our honeymoon, and it's a resort called Verona, Verana, and you fly into doesn't matter. It's in Mexico, and you fly into the airport, and then you drive about 30 minutes south of the airport, and then you get into a fishing boat, and you probably go about another 45 minutes down south on a fishing boat, and you pull into what looks like complete rainforest. Your bags are put on a donkey, and you walk uphill for like 10 or 15 minutes, and it is this. I think they have about 6 or 7 what they call houses, and they're all totally unique. Some of them only have 3 sides instead of 4 sides, and they all look out on the Pacific Ocean. Each house is totally different to the next house, and it was, at the time when we went there, it was owned by a German set designer. So his creative spirit is absolutely in everything, and the food was fantastic. The positioning is unique, and to fly is Puerto Vallarta. So you fly into Puerto Vallarta. So if you're leaving anywhere on, up on the West Coast, coming out of LA, you're there by lunchtime. And we were there for about 4 or 5 days. And one of the houses we stayed in was the Palapa, which didn't have any walls on it at all. And nobody can see in because of how it's positioned. And you've got a hammock, you've got your bed, you've got this extended sitting area, you've got the Pacific view, and it was just so different. And yet, out in the middle of nowhere, they were able to execute at a really, really high level. And from an experience standpoint, I think to this day, we still talk about it. And at some point, we need to go back and have another look. I mean, it is just, and the Instagram account is pretty sexy. It's really, really stunning place.
Well, just by hearing you, I want to go there right now.
Well, at least wait for
Yeah, that's true. That's true. One more question about the Bay Area, but where do you bring your guests to when they come and see you? So, there is a Golden Gate Bridge. Obviously, you're not far from it. But what do you think, where? Is there another spot you bring people to when they come to the Bay Area? It's a must-go-to place when they come here in San Francisco.
Yeah, I think it depends who they are. But I think you go to MoMA is it's kind of like mandatory. I think Palisades and around there, Fine Arts is great. But on the other side of the bridge, going up around the headlands, and whether you're driving or going up for hikes around there, because it's just a vantage point that you don't really hear or see about. And it's fantastic. And we spend a lot of our time going over towards the headlands. If I'm taking my bike out, my road bikes, I'll definitely go up from my house and edge the Golden Gate Bridge, up on top of the headlands, around and back down, hit Stinson, climb out of Stinson, and go back home again. And all of that area is fantastic. Going up to Bolinas, I think, is really unique. So that's definitely our territory. Is probably Marin County more than in the city. But what I do love about the city, Marin District, we love. I think that's because that was the first place we ever came to when we visited friends way back when. But I think they, when my parents come and they want to take the kids into the city, Exploratorium, Cass, I just think they just do such an amazing job here of those kind of attractions. And, again, the sooner we can get those opened up, the more other people can see them as well. So it just depends on who they are, but it's definitely love the other side of the bridge.
Do you still have a place you would like to live in? You lived in Sydney, you lived in London, you lived in San Francisco, you lived in Jackson Hole, you went to Hawaii. All those cities, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Is there a place you guys still have on, for the future on the map to go with your family? Is there something you still have a desire to say, one day I would like to go there. I would like to live there. Is there a place like this that you have in mind?
Yeah. I think, and if I could just choose the place where I'd end up living, it would be the French Alps, 100%.
Really?
Yeah, it would. I think I definitely have I have a pull to the mountains. It's definitely in the blood, and the French Alps with the food up there, just the culture, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. So I think to be able to end up in the French Alps at the end of the day, whatever that looks like, I think would be fantastic.
Well, I mean, if you like the outdoor, yeah, cycling, skiing,
yeah,
paragliding, swimming, yeah, everything, yeah, it's nice.
But, yeah.
My family is from the Alps.
It's also nice that as it relates to England, I'm far enough away not to have to deal with, you know, all the drama. But if anybody's got a good party, I can nip in really quickly, go for a week.
Well, yes, you know, there is Geneva Airport. You have direct flight from London to Geneva right there. Interesting.
No, I think it's an amazing part of the world. I think that'd be a great place to live.
Very good. Well, listen, Mark, you've been very kind. You gave us an hour and 10 minutes of your time today. And I know that you are busy. You're running your hotel very well. You're keeping it super nice. So you're doing a great job. Your staff is great. We didn't talk about your staff too much, but we all know that doesn't work. Just, you know, it's just not a one-man show, right? It's a teamwork. I know very well some of your people at your hotel, and they are very nice. They are very talented in housekeeping. They have a lot of experience, many years. And I think, even though you don't think so, I think that you're very present everywhere in your hotel, and you're making sure that your style is the style of the hotel, which is really a personal style, which is very nice. And you make your guests, I see you working, always going around, talking to guests, making sure everything's okay, so you're doing a great job. From the outside, I'm looking at you like, no.
I'm probably driving people nuts, but you're very kind.
I don't think so. I think you're doing very well. Before we part ways, Mark, is there anything you would like to add to this discussion? Anything you would like to share to the group? Anything we missed, just as a closeout for this meeting?
I've really enjoyed it. Thank you, Pierre. It's been great. Literally just chatting about the business. I think you know, for people who are looking to join the business, I think this is a great industry to come in and give it a go. And I think the beauty of the fact that you don't need to have got a PhD is a big thing, because it is all about opening doors. And just say yes to opportunities. Just say yes, and you will have a career that will go until you decide that it doesn't need to go any further. And that, I think, is a real privilege to have. So hopefully we can get our hotels back open soon, and we can get really that life and blood of San Francisco back into play.
Yes, guys. Make sure to come back mid of August. We're all open. So Hotel Zetta, Z-E-T-T-A. You're 3 blocks away, maybe 4 blocks from Union Square. You're 1 block from the Moscone Center. They have an amazing bar in the lobby. They have a very entertaining lobby with a lot of games, and for family, it's great as well. They have an amazing restaurant called Cavalier. So make sure to come to the city, mid of August. We're reopen. We're waiting for you. Our staff is ready. Mark is ready. His staff is ready. We just want to see you again, okay? We're missing you guys. So, Mark, thank you very much again, and I see you very soon. Stay healthy.
You
go
too.
biking, go hiking, go sailing, work as well. But you do that, and I see you soon, Mark. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Pleasure.
À bientôt, Marc. See you.
Yeah.
Salut.